You know, the absolute worst sound in professional football isn't the referee's whistle. It's not even the deafening roar of an opposing crowd when you throw a pick six. No, the worst sound is the sudden, agonizing silence that just blankets a practice field when a star player goes down. It's that terrifying, breath-holding moment when the cart comes out and the devastating reality of a torn ACL sets in. That is the exact nightmare the New York Giants woke up to this offseason. One single, terrible moment that fundamentally altered the entire trajectory of their franchise and forced their front office into this immediate, high-stakes scramble. Today, we're diving into a masterclass on the absolute chaos of NFL team building. In this explainer, we're going to look at a truly fascinating dichotomy. On one side, the stark, cold reality of a massive free agency miss, how a severe salary cap crunch literally cost the team an elite game-changing weapon. But on the other side, we have the emotionally charged, deeply poetic return of a literal franchise icon who has arrived to try and save the day. The drama here is off the charts, and for a historic organization like the Giants, the stakes right now are absolutely critical.
So let's set the scene. The entire foundation of the New York Giants offseason strategy rested squarely on the shoulders of Malik Nabers. He was their guy, the dynamic, primary target meant to anchor this offense. When the news broke that Nabers had suffered a torn ACL, an immediate, suffocating pressure just descended upon the entire organization. But look, the urgency wasn't just about replacing a super talented wide receiver. It was about protecting the most valuable and honestly often the most fragile asset in all of sports, a young franchise quarterback. Jackson Dart is entering his crucial second year, and in the NFL, a quarterback's sophomore season is the ultimate proving ground. Historically, this is exactly when the game is supposed to slow down for a young signal caller. But here's the reality. When a quarterback loses his primary read, that development can violently stall. Without a reliable safety blanket on the perimeter, the pocket suddenly feels a whole lot smaller. The internal clock speeds up, right? Forced throws turn into costly interceptions, and a young quarterback's confidence can just shatter entirely, triggering that dreaded sophomore slump. The Giants were suddenly staring into this massive void in their offense that could completely derail Dart's development and basically tank the team's entire campaign. So the immediate burning question echoing through the facility was clear. How on earth do you replace an injured star of Nabers' caliber when your financial flexibility has already been stretched to its absolute limit?
Section 1. Crisis and Flirtation.
The immediate aftermath of a catastrophic injury like this is just pure, unadulterated crisis management. The front office door is slammed shut, the whiteboards are aggressively wiped clean, and the war room kicks into maximum overdrive. The Giants management knew they couldn't just sit on their hands and hope for the best. They needed a proven, battle-tested weapon fast. And this brings us to a sequence of events that really define the tension of the summer for New York. It all cascades from the exact moment Malik Nabers goes down. Instantly, the scramble begins. The Giants are backed into a corner, desperately scanning the veteran market for a lifeline. General Manager Joe Schoen picks up the phone and makes a massive swing. He reaches out to Stefon Diggs. We're talking about a blockbuster move. But then, the window abruptly slams shut. Stefon Diggs does sign a contract, but not with New York. He signs with the Washington Commanders. Guys, this wasn't just a missed opportunity. This was a total nightmare scenario for the Giants. Watching a premier, elite talent walk straight into the locker room of a bitter NFC East Division rival, it means New York now has to face Stefon Diggs twice a year. Every single time Diggs lines up against the Giants' secondary, it's going to serve as this glaring, painful reminder of the exact weapon they desperately needed but let slip right through their fingers.
Now, the harsh reality of the NFL business is this. Past relationships and personal loyalties, they only get you so far. At the end of the day, the salary cap is undefeated. The context of Joe Schoen calling Stefon Diggs is super vital here, because they actually have a deep, shared history. They spent some highly successful years together up in Buffalo. Schoen was instrumental in the front office up there, while Diggs thrived as the featured weapon on a perennial playoff contender. So there was a built-in relationship, right? A shared language of offensive success. On paper, it made absolutely perfect sense for them to reunite in New York. And according to the reports, preliminary contact really did progress. Messages were actively exchanged. The familiarity made the fit highly intriguing. But those conversations never once escalated into formal contract talks. Why? Because of a decisive, totally unbridgeable financial gap. It simply wasn't the right fit for either side financially. The Giants were essentially window shopping in a high-end luxury boutique, but they were doing it with a maxed-out credit card. The emotional and historical connection from their Buffalo days just wasn't nearly enough to overcome the cold, hard mathematics of the roster budget. The messages they exchanged remained just that, messages. They never advanced far enough to actually change the outcome, leaving the Giants totally empty-handed in their desperate hour of need.
Section 2.
the financial wall missing the mark. Look, missing out on a free agent is one thing. That happens all the time. But missing out on a player who uniquely fits the exact void your team is facing, that is a massive, structural blow to an organization's season outlook. We really have to understand the sheer level of dominance Stefon Diggs brings to the gridiron to truly grasp the gravity of this missed opportunity for New York. This wasn't some declining veteran clinging to the league. This was a player operating with supreme efficiency. Stefon Diggs is a 7-time 1,000-yard receiver. Let that sink in for a second. In a league where defensive schemes are constantly evolving, specifically to take away a team's best weapon, Diggs has been this model of relentless, unstoppable consistency. Just last year, during his 2025 campaign with the New England Patriots, he was a pivotal force that helped drive that team all the way to the Super Bowl. But it's his mechanics that make him so incredibly dangerous. His elite route running and pinpoint target accuracy literally dictate defensive coverages. When the receiver like Diggs is out there on the field, defenses are routinely forced into too high safety looks just to prevent the deep strike. And you know what that does? That inherently opens up the running game, and crucially, it gives a young quarterback simpler, cleaner reads underneath. Diggs is the ultimate safety valve who structurally changes how a defense has to operate. That is exactly what the New York Giants offense is desperately missing right now, and they missed out on it purely because they hit a financial wall.
So you might be wondering, if the Giants couldn't afford to spend the money on Stefon Diggs, where exactly did that money go? Well, the front office directed the remaining resources elsewhere, notably handing out a pretty substantial contract to reunite their new head coach, John Harbaugh, with tight end Isaiah Likely. Now, Harbaugh obviously knows Likely very well from their past, and you can see there's a clear strategic vision here to utilize him in the middle of the field. But when we look at the production reality, this is a massive gamble. Isaiah Likely has yet to clear 500 receiving yards in a single NFL season. That is a sharp, glaring contrast to Diggs' basically guaranteed 1,000-yard production. Because management allocated those highly critical cap dollars to the tight end position, the remaining wide receiver room was left dangerously thin. Aside from some familiar names and recent draft picks, the group on the perimeter is completely unproven. They severely lack an established number 2 receiver to confidently step up in Malik Neighbors' absence. The Giants effectively placed a massive high-stakes bet on a coaching reunion and internal player development, but in doing so, they inadvertently left their young quarterback surrounded by massive question marks on the outside.
Section 3. Odell's emotional return, a destiny-driven reunion.
But hey, the NFL is a league of constant, dramatic narrative shifts, right? Just as the reality of their sterile financial failure began to really sink in with the fan base, the front office engineered a pivot so dramatic that it completely rewrote the story of their offseason. They delivered a literal emotional defibrillator to the heart of the organization by bringing back a franchise legend. Just listen to what Odell Beckham Jr. had to say upon his return to the building. "This is a place that made me into a man, made me into who I am. I have so much love for this organization, this city. I've got New York tatted on my back, and I'm from New Orleans." Man, you can feel the visceral weight of those words. This is a player who isn't just looking for a quick paycheck at the twilight of his career, he is looking for closure. He's returning to his roots. When Beckham steps onto that practice field, he carries the memories, the highlight reel moments, and the deep, abiding love of a New York fan base that literally watched him grow up under the brightest, most unforgiving lights in the sports world.
And he didn't stop there. He followed it up with a crystal-clear declaration of his ultimate goal. "All I ever wanted to do was win a championship for the New York Giants." This ties everything all the way back to the night of the 2014 NFL Draft, when York selected him 12th overall. He became an instant cultural icon. But the ultimate prize, the Lombardi Trophy, it always eluded him during his first stint. Those early years in blue were defined by his unbelievable individual brilliance, sure, but they were also marred by heartbreaking team failures, brutal playoff collapses, and just incredibly intense media scrutiny. The heartbreak of how close they got and how spectacularly it unraveled back then left a really deep scar on the fan base. But now, returning as a seasoned older veteran, that singular driving ambition remains completely intact. This is absolutely not a farewell tour. In his eyes, it's unfinished business. The sheer gravity of a veteran player returning to his original team with a championship mandate like that, it provides this undeniable electric buzz to the training camp facility. It brings a standard of excellence and an aura of expectation that young players like Jackson Dart desperately need to be around right now.
Section 4. A franchise icon's legacy. By the numbers. Let's talk about the numbers for a second, because in his first 59 games with the New York Giants, which, by the way, is less than 4 full seasons, Odell amassed a staggering 390 receptions, 5,476 receiving yards, and 44 touchdowns. Those aren't just Pro Bowl numbers. Those are historic, record-shattering, mind-bending statistics. Because honestly, sometimes time fades our memories of just how breathtakingly unguardable a player was in his absolute prime. Prime Odell Beckham Jr. didn't just play for the Giants. For a multi-year stretch, he was the heartbeat of the entire National Football League. He was routinely taking simple 5-yard slant routes to the house, just outrunning entire secondaries like they were standing still. He was making these impossible contorted one-handed catches that literally broke the internet and redefined what we thought the wide receiver position could even be. He struck absolute paralyzing fear into the hearts of defensive coordinators everywhere. He was the focal point of every single defense he faced, constantly drawing heavy double coverage, and yet they still couldn't stop him. These numbers are a stark, undeniable reminder of the towering, massive shadow he casts as he walks back into that building today.
His legacy in New York is permanently, unequivocally etched into the record books. He currently ranks second in Giants history for receiving yards, fourth in total catches, and fourth in receiving touchdowns. But of course, his journey didn't end when he left the tri-state area. He went on to play for 4 other franchises. He survived brutal, career-threatening injuries. He navigated intense controversy, and ultimately, he proved his championship medal by winning a Super Bowl ring with the Los Angeles Rams. And honestly, that Rams Super Bowl run is exactly why his signing matters on such a massive scale right now. It is not just about his past statistics in New York. It is about what he learned climbing to the absolute mountaintop of the sport. He knows the required standard of a championship locker room. He knows how to operate when the pocket collapses in a high-stakes, freezing January playoff game. That battle-tested veteran leadership is the exact specific medicine Jackson Dart needs. He brings the ultimate veteran experience back to a Giants locker room that is desperately, urgently searching for an offensive identity in the wake of Malik Neighbors' devastating injury.
Section 5. The Climax. Can an aging legend save the Giants? But here is the hard truth. Professional football games aren't won on nostalgia. You don't get points for having a great storyline. Games are won on the turf, in the margins, and against brutal, unforgiving physical realities. And there is a massive conflict sitting right at the heart of this signing. You have the ghost of prime 2015 Odell Beckham Jr., the guy who put up an earth-shattering 1,450 yards and 13 touchdowns in a single season, versus the reality of a 33-year-old veteran entering camp today. Nobody in that building expects him to replicate 2015. That's just not realistic. He carries a well-documented history of multiple, devastating knee injuries and significant time spent rehabbing away from the field. Questions linger heavily about his durability and his day-to-day availability over a grueling, punishing 17-game season. But here's the thing. His role isn't to be a 150-target phenom anymore. His role is to be a stabilizing force. He is there to use his elite football IQ, his precise, incredibly nuanced route running, and his veteran savvy to find the soft spots in zone coverage when Jackson Dart is under fire. It is a realistic yet incredibly dramatic expectation for a player in the twilight of his legendary career.
The ultimate tension surrounding this entire franchise right now all builds to one dramatic, unavoidable question. Can a 33-year-old legend overcome his extensive injury history to effectively replace the dynamic production of Malik Neighbors? And, even more importantly, can he elevate Jackson Dart in a make-or-break sophomore year? Think about the journey to get here. The front office swung and missed on Stefon Diggs due to the harsh reality of the salary cap. They placed their bets on a tight end reunion. And now the entire passing game rests heavily on this cinematic narrative of redemption. Can Odell's sheer presence, his veteran experience, and his undeniable raw talent make up for the financial wall that kept Stefon Diggs out of New York? This is an open loop of anticipation that absolutely demands answers on the field. If Odell Beckham Jr. can stay healthy, and if he can build crucial, rapid chemistry with this young quarterback, this destiny-driven reunion could provide exactly the spark New York needs to salvage a season that started with a devastating crisis.
But, as we all know in the NFL, the story is truly just beginning. We've laid out the facts, the metrics, and the massive stakes at play. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Odell Beckham Jr. still has enough left in the tank to save the Giants' passing attack? Or will the front office severely regret not finding the money to bring Stefon Diggs to New York? Drop your opinions in the comments below. I want to read what you guys think. If you value this kind of deep, cinematic sports analysis, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and consider becoming a member of NFL Nexus to directly support the channel. We are completely dedicated to bringing you the most intense, focused insights on the game you love. The season is fast approaching, the tension is rising every single day, and we will be right here to break down every single moment. Until next time, keep your eyes on the gridiron. We'll see you for the next explainer.